Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prósperos años y felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prósperos años y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prósperos años y felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prósperos años y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart.
Greetings, 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 and salutations, one and all. Welcome, 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 welcome to the night shift. Happy, 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 happy hump day to you. I want to say big ups to all those who have it locked right now on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew at thebox.net, the Foundation Radio Network, across upon One Harmony Radio. Big ups, big ups, big ups, big ups to you, PEMG TV, and of course the home of the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. Just let you know as summer come. Alright, as you see me. Want to say thanks to Pulse Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show, kicking it off with a little soca as we establish a connection with Germany. Yeah, Dr. T is across the pond and the waters and the land. Yeah, she's all the way over there in Germany. Pulse Media Group and being in the moment is priceless. You wanna give them a link? 754-999-6020 or visit them at pulseemg.com. I'll let them know our DJ Kevin Stew sent you, yeah? Right now the thing wild. Giving you a little soca vibe. Yeah, it's been a while since I did this, right? So it's not very often that Dr. T asked me to hold it down, right? We're holding it down right now. Tonight we're talking about the role of men and women as parents. And this is a spin-off from the positive disciplining shows that we did last week and the week before. Numbers to call, numbers to text to get you in touch. 773-789-STEW. A track called Like Nike.
I'm doing it like Nike. I'm doing it like Nike. We going all Nike.
How about this must be playing? No woman tell me you're straying. I say, baby, what you're saying is my Salona day. But the same thing repeating, drinking and so much cheating. But second on it always open. The job singing.
You think we done? You think we done? We gonna stop up the people wrong with the business. Up in the air, everything going up inside there with the business. And if you never know, now you know that we don't give a squat about you. We don't really care about you.
Behavior stink like fragrant. Call it a triple fragrant. Alien like immigrant. Never trouble, no infant. Nice woman with big bam bam. In the band, pure joke and jam. Rum in my head, bang 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 bang.
You wanna talk, but we come up stink. We don't really care what you think, boy. We don't care. We don't care. And anywhere that we go, we shop.
I want to say good evening to the guest in the chat room.
Yeah. And now you gonna be out on
Reggae music edutainer
Nike. I'm doing it.
extraordinaire.
I'm doing it like Nike. I'm doing it like Nike.
Bridget, Mr. Marlon Burrell, big ups to you, sir.
I'm doing it like Nike. I'm doing it like
How
Nike.
does it feel to get back into the groove?
How about this must be playing? No woman tell me you're straying. I say, baby, what you're saying is my Salona day. But the same thing repeating, drinking and so much cheating. Box a condom, it always open. The jam singing. Mash up the pet like we don't care. Running the head like we don't care. Stamp on the boat like we don't care. Mass in the road like we don't care. Mash up the pet like we don't care. Running the head like we don't care. Stamp on the boat like we don't care. Behavior stink like fragrant. Call it a triple fragrant. Alien like immigrant. Never trouble, no infant. Nice woman with big bam bam. In the band, pure joke and jam. Rum in my head, bang 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 bang.
I'm doing it like Nike. 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 I'm doing it like like, yeah. I doing it like, we going all night, yeah.
So it's Christmas time, and as we wait for Dr. T to join us via the connection, I got some more Christmas music for you. 15 minutes after the hour, this is the Policy Media Group sponsored segment. I encourage you to grab your friends and come on over, jump into the pot, the stew pot on kevinstew.com, and we can chit-chat a little bit. What do you think is the role of men and women as parents? Do you think the role is the same? Do you think that each one has a specific part to play in the development of the children? Does it differ if it's a boy or a girl? What questions do you have, or what views do you have as it relates to the role of a parent? Let me know. Jump in the chat room or give me a call. 754. No, not 754. I haven't had a 754 number in ages. 773-789-STEW. Again, 773-789-STEW. That's the number to use to get you in touch. The number to call, the number to text. And I guarantee you that you won't be disappointed. Dr. T will answer any question you have, and she'll be more than happy to answer your questions. As a matter of fact, we should be able to test the line right now. Dr. T, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, look at it! It's amazing. I saw the line come alive as I was talking. I was like, wait a minute. I was about to play another song, and I was like, wait a minute. She's here. All connections established, and we're good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, in the past, well, this makes 3 weeks now. So, after the first show, you know, she wasn't a stranger anymore. When she came on the second show, well, as this time, we're not talking about the first show a few years back. So, after that show, a mother cannot teach her son how to be a man. See, we start already. All right. From that show years back, she no longer was a stranger. But when she came back this year, she established a brand new relationship. So she came one day, 3 weeks ago. Then she came last week. And as a result of that, we ended up doing this now because we did positive disciplining. And in last week's discussion, we ended up bringing up or touching on the role of men and women as parents. And hence this show. So, Dr. T, thank you very, very much once again. Good morning to you.
Yes, it's morning my time.
Yeah, it is. Has the sun come up yet?
No. We're getting closer to the winter solstice, so we're really having long nights.
Right.
By 3:30, I'm in Europe, so by 3:30 it's dark, and it stays dark until maybe 8 a.m. So,
right,
yeah, we're having really long nights here.
I don't envy you one bit. All right, so as the darkness prevails,
but there's beautifulness in darkness. That's where creation is, in the dark.
Yeah, that's how babies come about.
Yeah, everything great is created in the dark. It needs the dark to nourish it, and then everybody can see it when it's time to be seen.
Right. Oh, that's for another show. I think I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get you onto the show regularly, because we have questions of varying sorts when it comes to real talk, and especially when we start touching on relationships, and the mere fact that you mentioned great things being and things being created in the dark, that just opens up another discussion altogether right there. So, whew. All right, let me come back. Big ups to those in the stew pot. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So first comment in the pot. Let me just say this right out. First comment in the stew pot. A mother cannot teach her son how to be a man. I had asked a question, what are your views on the roles of men and women as it relates to parenting? Are they different? If is a man supposed to do certain things? Is a woman supposed to do certain things? Does it make a difference if the child or children are boys or girls? And I asked for opinions and viewpoints, and this is the first one that I have received. That one coming in the pot. Again, numbers to call, numbers to text to 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. Don't be shy. Just go ahead, comment, and let's get going. Dr. T.
Yes.
Oh, let me go ahead and share my screen with you. I have been selfish. Those watching on kevinstew.com only saw me. Here we go. That's Dr. T right there. All right. So the role of men and women as it relates to parenting. Where do we begin?
It's I know it's a touchy topic because there are so many of us who are single parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of people might be a bit triggered by some of the things that I will cover. But the first thing I will say, as adults, we need to heal our own wounds and set up the space so that we can best support our children. So my view is that our children need both a male and a female. It'll be good to have both mommy and daddy, but there are circumstances that doesn't allow that. But if daddy is not there, I think it's the mother's responsibility to have examples of male figures in her children's life. The father is very important for both genders, whether male or female.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain things, for example, there are a lot more studies that are done on fatherlessness with daughters compared to, sons, but I just want to go into it. So a lot of the research assess fatherlessness, whether it's via death, divorce, or divorce, separation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how a child actually responds depends on which one of these separations they experience. But overall, studies have shown that fathers have a positive influence on girls' academic abilities, especially mathematical skills, which is fascinating. And the ones who don't, they're always outliers. So you have the extreme. If your father's not in your life, you overcompensate by being an overachiever. You have those. But in the normal population, girls who don't have their fathers, for example, they tend to score lower on academic and cognitive abilities tests. They do.
Really?
And yes, there's something about the presence of a father that motivates a daughter to do well, and especially well in what are normally determined to be male-dominated subjects, so science and math. Her father is more likely to push her, motivate her to challenge, to go through those. No, those aren't hard. I can show you how to do it, kind of thing, right? And then there's another thing, girls who are without their fathers or a father figure in general lack a sense of protection and may become very discouraged and feel unloved and rejected. And when they go through that experience, the data shows clearly that fatherless daughters are more at risk for teenage pregnancies, low self-esteem. Even if they do enter university, they're more likely to drop out compared to a daughter who has her father in her life. They're more likely to experience sexual abuse. I think I've mentioned that in the past 2 videos, because when you don't have a healthy man protecting you, predators know that they can step in and try to be that father figure,
Right.
and it's less risky for them because they don't have a man who would come around to literally kill them, right? If they mess with the daughter.
Right.
So fatherless daughters also go through depression, behavioral problems, more likely to experiment with drugs and alcohol. So some people are like, but I am a single, I'm from a fatherless home and I'm fine. They're always outliers, but there's things that you're more likely to struggle with. It's because I have to repeat, we fall for the fallacy of it didn't happen to me. Yeah, it didn't happen to you, but in general, fatherless daughters are more at risk of experiencing these kind of things. So, there's an interesting thing where daughters who have like little contact with their fathers, especially during the adolescent times,
Yes.
have greater difficulties for forming and maintaining long lasting romantic relationships as adults. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah. Yeah.
And this
And
is
you know
just
why?
from the
You know why?
absence of a male figure, a male father figure.
They struggle with romantic. So even a lot of us women are, we keep going from relationship to relationship. We're not understanding why, or we're having certain challenges in relationships that a woman who had a father in her life, there's certain things she would pick up on, or there are certain things that would be established for her that would not end up having her to struggle. So, for example, there are several reasons why there are issues with romantic relationships. Trust issues is number one. A daughter learns trust from her father, right? She doesn't know how to communicate with her partner well. How men and women communicate is different, and you can tell me if I'm correct based on your experience. So, for example, when women are talking, we tend to be very fluffy, and we tend to be, adding in a whole lot of unnecessary things and all of that. But when we're communicating with men, men are very practical and precise, right? So, for example, a girl growing up without a man in the house or father figure who she could communicate with on a regular basis might be, for example, in a relationship with a man, and she needs some advice from him. And he's very matter of fact. So she goes to him and tell him this problem. And he starts, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you done this, that?
Given the
She then get
solutions.
defensive. And, no, but the way how he speaks, she then get defensive and say, why are you treating me like a child? But that's how men communicate, right?
Right.
Men are like to the point, very precise. And they're looking at just the practical element. They're not looking at emotions and feel good and all that kind of thing.
Right.
So when they're so a man who's communicating with a woman who is not raised or had a father figure, the way he speaks might come across as lecturing, and some women might go as far as like she don't have no sense and all of that. But when you live with your father, you would realize that when you go to daddy to solve a problem, this is how he interacts with you. So you even didn't, in that process, you're not even realizing that you're being taught that how men and women communicate is different.
Right.
And
right.
you go into a relationship and your partner is speaking to you like that when you're problem solving, it doesn't come across as something bad. But if you've only been interacting with women growing up, and then you go to your partner to say, hey, I have this problem, and he's, matter of fact, and then he's like, what's the problem? You asked me to solve something, and this is what I'm telling you to do. But he speaks with such authority, sometimes it then becomes intimidating and make you feel like a child. You didn't have that example growing up. So that's why the communication issues, that's an example of how the communication issues can come about. And then there are issues like with fear of emotional intimacy. A woman is unable to, like, for example, be fully vulnerable with her partner because she might have had a dad who was in and out of her life, right? So she developed a form of insecure attachment. You don't know if you're coming or not. Or she might develop avoidance attachment, kind of not, don't get too close, because when you get too close, you get hurt. And she might have an amazing partner, but that kind of fear of emotional intimacy and vulnerability can really have negative impact on the relationship. And the data also show that women who grew up without fathers have more trouble negotiating and controlling their emotions. It's tied into the communication that I just discussed. There's certain ways that you communicate with your father that's just different,
Right.
compared to your mother, and you learn how to navigate that. And you know what's fascinating? You see, when you have sons and daughters who grow up without fathers get engaged, the daughter is more likely than the son to believe that the marriage will fail. She's already entering the marriage thinking this not gonna work. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So that's why, even when I'm doing my Facebook lives and I'm doing all of that, a lot of people talk about parenting, and it's just naturally assumed to be mothers alone. I'm like, no, fathers. Even if you cannot provide the material needs, your children, especially your daughter, needs you. Because
Right.
another issue too is that, you have a lot of women who have now switched the roles, and they are the pursuers and they are hunting for the men and all that kind of thing.
Right.
The data shows that fatherless daughters are more sexually aggressive. They're more aggressive in seeking male attention. Yeah. So I know a lot of stuff that I'm saying is heavy, and I know it might be triggering to some people, but I just want you to think. And the issue is, like, you don't have a good relationship with your children's father. Anything that you want to experience begins with you. And it's more like a metaphysical thing I'm going into. So if you want to experience change, you have to literally be the change. Some relationships can be, reconciled within months. Some may take years. But you have to, as parents, I keep saying to parents over and over, remember, this child is then going to grow up. They're going to be somebody's parent and somebody's spouse. So you have to deal with your emotional issues and put those on the back burner and do what is necessary. Sometimes people will say you have to be the bigger person to make sure your children have the necessary support that they need.
Right.
Now, if a man is abusive and all of that, obviously keep your children away until he gets the help. If he's not willing to get the help, then it's still your responsibility to find a father figure, whether it's your brother, your father, your grandfather, to step in and be that male figure for your child. But so a lot of the things that I also want to they're differences with between daughters who experience separation because the father died, or experience separation because the father just upped and decided to leave the family. Right? So when your father dies, the data shows like those girls avoid male contact, so they're not sexually aggressive towards men. And they actually have a more positive outlook on their concept or memory of their father, and they're more saddened by his loss.
Right.
But the ones who go through the
father up and
loss
leave
because of separation,
right,
they have diminished respect for the father, and that is tied to the fact that the mother is sometimes in the child's ears, sharing all of her. It's like she parentifies her child. Her child becomes the parent because now she's telling the child all these negative things about the child as a way of self-therapy. And the child is hearing all of that, and so that creates an image in the child's mind about the father. But parents, ladies, you're not supposed to be doing that. You find a girlfriend, you find a coach, or you find a therapist. Your children should not be your therapist. Okay, because there are lots of men who are horrible partners and amazing fathers. So not because he was horrible to you means he necessarily will be horrible to his children. So the ones
That's
who
a can of,
experience,
another can of worms right there. In and of
yeah.
itself.
So, the ones who experience like the separation because of divorce, or the father just up and leave, they seek more attention from men and boys. And even a simple thing as how they stand closer to boys, physically closer to boys compared to girls who have fathers in their home, and it's unconscious, right? They're
I
more critical
never
of their
knew that.
fathers and they're more aggressive in seeking attention compared to the ones who died, who experienced loss because the father died. So I don't even think people fathom the importance of having a father in a little girl's life. Because it's not just, no, it shapes how she's going to interact with the world when she becomes an adult. And some
Right.
of the things that I explained, some women can relate to that, like, the whole thing of trust issues in the relationship, not willing to be emotionally vulnerable, not knowing how to really effectively communicate with their partner without feeling as if he's lecturing her. Again, that's how men communicate sometimes.
Now, is it any different if the father is not in the home anymore, but still maintains a relationship with the child? Communication, whether
It
by
can be, yeah, it can be reduced. All these effects can be reduced, but it requires that the father has regular, which means weekly, not just a few hours a day, but in the sense where every weekend she's at his house. Do you understand? That's how you can reduce those risk factors. If it's not just him coming for 2, 3 hours and hanging out with her, no. It is like she knowing that every Friday she pack her bag and go to daddy's house. It's having him having, and also not just wait until Friday, but constant communication in the week and spending holidays with him, weekends with him, that kind of thing. That's how you can reduce those kind of risk factors. So it is possible, but it requires like what is co-parenting. It's not just him coming to drop off the money and saying hi, but literally parenting her as well.
right. That kind of takes me back to the series I was doing with parental alienation, which I kind of wish you were around for because, well, the series is on in the archive. So, comment in the chat room. I was the one that had the horrible husband, who was the most, and still is the most amazing father. Oh,
See? Not because he's crappy. And then, men with relationships have relationship issues too, especially if they were raised in single parent homes. So sometimes they just don't know how to be in relationships. And that's a fact. But when it comes to caring for a child, they're absolutely amazing at that. They might have even had a younger sibling, so they had to take care of and that kind of thing. But they might not have the skill sets. And again, even for boys, not having a father figure there to see how a man provides and protects for his family, he has no clue how to do that.
now, and I'm going to venture off a little bit into the co-parenting side. If the father is around and the father is kept away from the child, the boy, and or the girl, and someone else is placed in the position and the child is being told, okay, here is your father, quote unquote father, being the father figure, is the effect any different?
There's still going to be issues relating to the level of respect that the child has for the father. Remember, there's a difference between when you experience your father disappearing because of death
Right.
compared to separation. So there's still going to be an element of sadness and anger and all of that. So I know some women have their emotional issues because this relationship didn't go the way they want. And so they want to completely cut the man out of the child's life and replace the father with somebody else.
Right.
That's all nice. But the child knowing that the parent, the other parent, still exists and still around, there's still going to be this yearning for that biological parent. Yes, they'll appreciate having a stepfather and the stepfather showing them certain things, but it's like they're going to be more receptive if they actually had the biological father in their life.
Right. Um.
So what a whole issue of parenting that I want to emphasize is that as adults, we need to heal our childhood traumas and we need to heal our relationship traumas and issues because so many of us unwittingly you have those traumas popping up influencing how we parent and influencing how we interact with our exes that have repercussions for our children. So sometimes when parents come to me for coaching or to be in my program, before I even go to parenting tools, I have to say, we have to work on you.
Right.
There are issues with you that even unconsciously, how you respond to certain things, that's influencing your parent-child relationship. So if you can heal that, a lot of the stuff that you come to me for is automatically fixed. So I know that for many women, and I know their fathers who take care of their children live with them alone, but majority of the cultures, it's the women who are the primary caregivers, right?
Right.
And I know there are lots of women who think it's okay to just discard the father and replace the father with somebody else. No, I just want to be clear. If the man is abusive and he's addicted to any form of drugs or alcohol and whatever, for your children's safety, obviously he has to be separated. And you have a frank conversation with your children, like your dad is struggling with this kind of addiction and all of that. He
Right.
needs help. And when he gets the help, you allow him back into your children's life.
Okay.
But just cutting him out because of your emotional stuff. No, you have to heal yourself for that. It's bigger than you. And the reason I say it's bigger than you, you're not just thinking about your children because you allow your emotional stuff to pop up in the way you parent and interact and co-parent. It's affecting your children. Remember, they don't stay children forever.
Right.
They're going to go into relationship and bring those stuff with them. And they are going to have children and bring those stuff with them too. So you're looking at an intergenerational effect. And I think sometimes that is being lost with a lot of parents, right? Where they're focusing so much on how they're being hurt. And they're not looking at the long-term impact on their decision making regarding the other parent, how it's going to show up in their children, whether it's when their children are adults and also have children themselves.
I guess it all comes back to the underlying fact that as adults, there are things that happen in our childhood that we don't address, and that totally will throw us off. And we might think that we're fine, but because we have this as our norm, that we now think that this is how it is supposed to be and this is what we project onto our children. So if things don't go a certain way or if things do go a certain way, that is how we want it to go.
So we're all caught up in ego. We're all
That
caught
is
up in
it.
ego. And what I tend to say to parents is, okay, Picture yourself at home and, there's a knock on the door. It's your child and they're 30 years old. What kind of person do you want that child? What kind of person do you want to be stepping in your house at 30? Meaning, what kind of characteristics should this person have? What kind of life skills should this person have? Now, you think about that. Match that now with what you're doing now. Will that, what you're doing in the present, help you to see that child at 30 exhibiting these characteristics and traits? If it's a no, then you have to fix the present. And we don't look at things like this. And I know parents are overwhelmed. That's why I said to parents, join my parenting class, join my parenting program. The class is just general parenting, but when I do coaching for families, I start with the parents first. I have to.
Right.
Because there's so many issues from childhood that comes up that we have to address first before we can do anything else. Even the way, we did a lot of talking about back talking the last time, even the way we speak to children, we don't even realize that how we respond a lot of times come from our childhood. Or how we boss around our children sometimes. It's because when we were children, we were bossed around. And you would think, but if I was bossed around when I was a child, I wouldn't want to boss around my child. Again, that was programmed in the subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
So what you end up doing is bossing around your child without even realizing that's what you're doing. Even the way I say to parents, when you're in a heated argument or so with your child, if you're in the space, if you're in the mind frame, hit voice recording on your phone and play it back. You would be amazed at your tone and the level of disrespect you give to your children. You would be amazed because when you're speaking, you're hearing yourself from internally, right?
Right.
So you're not really able to gauge like the tone and everything about your voice. But if you really want to know how you sound to your children, seriously, hit record. You would be shocked. Like, oh my God.
Question. There are two questions, actually, in the pot. What happens when the step-parent is being forced on the child?
That's a twofold thing. Does the step-parent even want to be that kind of person? Again, what happens is that a lot of mothers or let me just say parent want to replace the child's parent. You have to realize that in a child's eyes, yes, they love and appreciate the step-parent, but this step-parent is still not their biological parent.
Right.
And in forcing, you now have to look. Step-parent should never ever be to replace another parent. It should be a way of communicating that this is an additional adult to support and guide you on your journey until you're able to make decisions on your own.
Mm-hmm.
That is what a step-parent is supposed to be. Step-parent is not supposed to be replacing the other parent at all. And your children, when you try to use a step-parent to replace the other parent, will become resentful.
No.
They will become resentful.
I notice you just left resentful open. Is it that they become resentful to the parent who is imposing the step parent towards the step parent, or towards the outside parent?
It's twofold. They can become resentful towards the parent who is trying to impose this other person on them. And then there's another thing where there could be a resentfulness with the outside parent because of the influence of the parent they live with. Again, we have a nasty habit of parentifying our children,
mm-hmm.
where we go to our children and we vent and we talk about him not send the child support, he's not answering my call, yada yada yada. So what you do, you give the impression, you give your children the impression that this person is irresponsible, evil, doesn't love them, all that kind of stuff, which is not necessarily true. Because what I try to share with parents is that you know what you need to look at? We are all human beings, individuals before we became parents.
Right.
And we all have had issues and life challenges before we become parents. And even becoming parent does not evaporate these issues. And there really are some people who can't simultaneously deal with their issues and parent. And for men, it's easier for them to just walk. Women do it too by dropping off the kids by the grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to say to your children, he has some issues that he needs to work out, and it doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Again, the way how men communicate. Women are the ones who will, you have an issue, you sit down with your group of friends and you talk. You vent with each other. And at the end of that, we feel good. Men don't do that. Men, what they call, go into their cave. And women will say, him heartless, him the loving picnic. But you know what? Studies have shown that men's emotions are actually deeper than a woman's emotion. The reason we don't see it, it's because society have conditioned boys and men that they're not supposed to show their emotions because it's a sign of weakness.
Right.
He disappears, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. He's also suffering, but how he deals with his suffering is silently and alone. But how a mother deals with her suffering is to have a community of women who she vents with. But it doesn't mean because he's not displaying his frustration, his hurt in the way that you as a woman would do, doesn't mean that he's not feeling pain either. Men just respond differently to the emotional pain that they feel. Some may pacify it with alcohol or drugs. Some just say they can't. And again, in socializing, we don't teach boys how to process their emotions. These boys become men, and when they have that kind of emotional weight on them, they don't know how to process it. Society already told them that they're not supposed to be so open with their emotions. What do you do as a man, Kevin? You pull away.
That's typically what I do. I've come to that realization, or I came to that realization some time ago, some way back, that is what I do. So
and that's what most men do, because we have not socialized boys who then become men how to really process information, how to process their emotions.
Their emotions, yes.
And how men process their emotions is very different from how women do it. A woman can easily just go to a therapist and spend a whole year just talking to a therapist. A man thinks automatically he needs to go solve this thing himself. And he goes into this cave-like mode to try and figure out how is he going to solve it. And for a lot of men, when they get really emotional, they pull away. And that pulling away, women interpret it as being cold and heartless, which is not necessarily the case. It's just that they respond differently. And some women are like, yeah, you're picking up for men. It's just that men and women process things differently. You want him to process things the way you and your girlfriend process things, and it's not the case. So that's why sometimes I said you have to sometimes be the one to still have that door open. Yes, we're not together. I have my emotional issues relating to you, but you know what? My child's well-being is way more important. And let him know that it is safe for him to still come around, even if he doesn't have the full child support, to have that kind of relationship with his children. And he might not even tell you how much he was hurt by the breakup. Again, women cry and vent to everybody about the breakup. Men go silently inward and don't say anything. Actually, research show that men take a longer time to recover from breakups compared to women. But you might think, oh, he's in the club next week, he's over
Right.
it. No, it's just his way of trying to deal with it, but emotionally it's still underneath. So we have to realize that both male and female process things differently. And we parent differently too. So having the child experience both the male and the female form of parenting is very critical for your child.
773-789 Stu gets you in touch. Those of you who want to talk to Dr. T, 773-789-7839. You can give a call. You can text if you can't get into the chat room, kevinstew.com, to pose your questions. A question relating to these parenting classes that you do, Dr. T. Someone asked if it's available in South Florida. You do that kind of sounds weird. You do
Yeah,
online.
yeah, I do have online classes, and
You just did a free
the next
one
is
last
going to
week.
begin in Jan- I did have an informational session last week, but I will begin a 7-week class in January. So if they go to my Facebook page, or I can give you my email, info@tanieshaburke.com. So that's TANIeshaburke.com. Once they send me an email and say they're interested in the course, I will add them to my email list so that when the course becomes available, they can be notified of it.
Right, and I had just put it into the chat, into the stew pot on kevinstew.com. It's info@tanieshaburke.com. You can't go wrong with it because I've been spelling her name for a while now, so I know how it's actually spelled. It's an I before the E. Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so now the women who raise single boys, or single women, sorry, who raise boys, are those boys less likely to be the kind of man that you described, the one that would retreat to the cave-like place within himself and deal with his issues differently? Or would that boy be more inclined to talk about it because he was raised by a woman?
Not necessarily, because society has conditioned boys not to show their emotions. Remember, how we socialize girls and how we socialize boys is different.
But
A girl can cry and vent a lot, but boys learn the code from a very young age that they're not to be emotional. And a lot of mothers bring in their own insecurities into that, because if he becomes too emotional, he might become too effeminate, which means like he might be on the gay side. And even Professor Barry Evans, he died maybe 6-7 years, or maybe more than that. He did a lot of work on socialization in Jamaican families. And that was the main thing that he saw as it relates to differences in socializing boys and girls, that boys don't even get the same level of physical touch as girls, even if they have both parents in the home. And boys are not allowed to share their emotions because you're supposed to be like a man, toughen up, suck it up. So it doesn't matter. And I think we need to, whether or not the father is there or not, we need to start thinking of that is not a healthy way of raising sons. And I often say to parents, your home should be your son's safe space. Yes, society will tell him he's supposed to be tough. He's not supposed to cry. Crying means he's weak or he's soft. But you need to let him know that it's okay for him to do it at home. He's not going to be judged. He's not going to be ridiculed. This is his safe space when he's having a bad day. But a lot of us unconsciously go with the cultural thing, like you don't want your boy to be soft, so you don't really allow him to cry. Yes, there's some shift in especially like the middle class families and so on, but it's still very prevalent in our culture to not have boys be as emotionally vulnerable as girls because of, again, parent. You see where I go back again?
Right.
Our own issues as parents, right? Always bally, and you need to toughen up and be a boy or a man or whatever.
Right.
So you end up not teaching him how to process his emotions.
So, all right.
And he brings that into his relationship as an adult.
I'm going to use me as an example. With my sons, I have been emotional with my sons to the point where I have cried in their presence. I hug my sons all the time. I kiss my sons all the time. I let them know that I love them all the time. Is this now the kind of practice that you'd recommend for men generally? Or
Yes, they need to know. Remember, a boy can still live with his mother, right? And he knows based on certain things that this is how you're supposed to treat a woman and all of that. As a boy, he's constantly searching, like, how do people that look like me do certain things? Even if he's not consciously aware of it, there's something that is triggered when they hit the double digits. So like they're exiting middle childhood, about to enter adolescence. For every single boy, there's something there. And so you see them wanting to, if they don't have a healthy representative of a man, whether it's their father, uncle, brother, cousin, whatever, they will start mimicking what they see in the media, whether it's the popular DJ or the movies and all of that. They really don't know. So what you're doing with your sons is actually extremely important and good. You're teaching them that men do have emotions and we actually cry, even though everything else around us might say the opposite. You're teaching them how, as boys, they can express their emotions and process it. You're also helping them even relating to stress. When you touch your child, the hormones that like cortisol and so on literally starts decreasing from touch. So you're hugging your sons, unlike some people who like don't be too touchy-feely with their sons. You're teaching them affection, and they then will interact with their sons in the way you have interacted with them, because that's what you have taught them. And sometimes people might say, well, it's easy to switch. No, it's not. You try changing a habit and see how hard it is for you to even change the habit. And that goes to the negative aspect of it as well. So if you have been raised to see parenting as this standoffish, only show up with money kind of thing, without even realizing, you might be repeating that same pattern with your children. And for some people, their self-awareness is very high. They're like, this is not for me. I don't want to repeat this cycle. And they will work hard to not repeat the cycle. Unfortunately, there are others who are not that self-aware, and they will repeat the cycle with their own children. It's like you have to recondition your subconscious mind to say, I see parenting as different. I don't see parenting as I show up every 3 months with some money, stay for 2 hours and disappear again.
What if, though, that is the scenario that the primary parent has created? That's the kind of relationship that the primary parent wants to have that hold on their child, whether it is the mother or the father, because they feel that because whatever didn't work out with their former partner, that they must be the one to protect their child, and this is how they must do it. So they create the situation where that is all that they get. The visiting parent, they get 2 hours, and it has to be that they're bringing some money, because the primary parent now creates that image that your other parent doesn't love you. See, they don't give you any of this, that, or the other, and it's usually material.
Yeah, and again, it is the primary parents bringing their own traumas, their own triggers to influence the child's relationship with the other parent. And what you're doing is you're literally setting up your child to go through unnecessary challenges as children and adults because of your own issues. Again, I keep repeating, if the other parent is not experiencing is not violent, abusive, is not abusing any form of alcohol or drugs, so that he or she is at a risk factor for their children, there's supposed to be no reason why that other parent shouldn't be in the children's life. And even so, if there are any of those things, there should be an encouragement for them to get help. And as they get help and improve, then they should be reintroduced to their children. It's adult selfishness that causes us to raise traumatized children who become traumatized adults.
You need to say that once more, Dr. T.
Yeah. It's our selfishness that causes us to raise traumatized children who become traumatized adults. That's why I have to constantly say to parents, you have to heal your stuff, because it comes up in subtle ways or even very visible ways in how you interact with your children. And this whole thing of bad talking the other parent, you have all right to do that, but not to your children. The children can make the decision for themselves about this particular person. And you know what sometimes happens when they become old enough to interact with the other parent and get the other parent's point of view? Then
they lash out.
It's like a resentment developed for the primary parent. Like, how could you have robbed me of interacting with my father when you said all these bad things, and then I spoke to him and I realized that wasn't the case?
I've heard of situations like that only too often.
And a lot of the issues, I think parents sometimes underestimate our power in creating the dynamics of current reality. We have to remember our children do not stay children forever. Whatever parenting styles or tools we implement, how we respond to them, how we respond to our exes, all of that is going to have an impact on who they're going to be as adults. And so we should always have the end in mind. You want your child to go into, all of us want our children to eventually marry, have a family, all that kind of thing. What is the current space doing, or what is happening now that will equip your child to go into that kind of relationship in adulthood that you envision for them? Especially when I go back to the issue of saying how daughters struggle in relationships when it comes to intimacy, communication issues, trust issues. You might have listeners who are women who have trust issues.
Right.
And the question is, especially if the man has done nothing to justify why you have trust issues, But you go in with a level of insecurity thinking he's probably going to leave eventually because that's what your father did. He's probably going to cheat because that's what your mother said he did. And you struggle with it because that kind of relationship that you needed wasn't there. And also, the data shows that girls who had healthy father relationships, their relationships end up being way more successful because you know why? The father daughter relationship was a model of man woman interaction for her. It was a positive model for her to know how the dynamics of male female interactions are. So girls with their fathers in their lives have a way better chance of having long lasting healthy relationships.
Not that they can't have long-lasting positive relationships if a father is absent. They just have a better chance.
No, it's more challenged. It's just a lot more challenging, right? Nothing is impossible. You can change your future. You can change even the current once you make up your mind that you want, a different experience. But it's just that you are more at risk of having difficulty in your relationships because you did not have that healthy experience for a father or father figure daughter relationship to know how you're supposed to act in those relationships, how men speak, even expectations of men. You go, it's like you're going into the minefield without a map. And you have to figure it out. So you end up doing more trial and error.
Right.
When somebody who have had that kind of experience with their father go into that scenario with a blueprint already. So yes, they may also experience challenges in their relationship. I'm not saying it's not. Nothing happens and they're perfect. They will also have challenges, but they're better equipped relating to how they handle those challenges. That's what I'm saying. So there are just some unnecessary risk factors that we put on our children that is not necessary. It's not called for because we hold on to our own stuff, our own junk, our own resentment. If you are so emotionally charged because of this breakup, then maybe you need to ask a family friend or somebody to be a mediator. So when this other parent needs to see their children, need to pick up their children, this person can be the middle person to say, okay, this parent can pick up our children at my friend's house instead of mine because I'm too emotionally charged, right? Or, so you create, because until you heal yourself, how you interact with that parent is going to be negative. You might just need some assistance from somebody to be the mediator until you work out your stuff.
But how often do we acknowledge that though? Because as far as most of us are concerned, we're fine.
Yeah, and that is why I'm having such a push to have parenting classes, especially with our community, because not because something is popular or prevalent, it means it's healthy. It doesn't mean it's healthy. So because everybody walks around being a single parent and cut off the other parent out of the child's life, that just might be a prevalent thing in your environment, but it doesn't mean that it's healthy. So for me, it's helping parents to become more self-aware, aware of how their childhood experiences, their expectations of the other parent influence how they interact with your own children and also with the other parent. And, most people think, but if you should be able to think how you felt isolated and alone when your father wasn't around or your mother wasn't around, and you're supposed to be able to know what it feels and do different. Yeah, but if you've been conditioned like that, it's difficult to change. It's reprogramming your mind. And some people will take the familiar, even though it's unhealthy, instead of venturing into the unknown. And it's human nature. It's human nature because we are programmed for survival. Any means necessary.
So the parent that
I-
says, "This is what I went through. I will not put my child through this," and it becomes more of overcompensating,
Mhm.
just
In
as
what way?
damaging.
Of overcompensating in what way?
The father that says, "My father wasn't there, so
Mhm.
I'm going to make sure I smother my child with everything that they want because I didn't get it."
Oh, you're still hindering your children. Children are not supposed to be pampered. I know there's always some people swing to the extreme. They don't want their children to experience disappointment, pain, and all of that.
Right.
But what you're not doing, again, for the listeners, remember your end goal is to raise capable, competent human beings who are compassionate and kind towards everything and everybody in their environment. Now, when you don't allow children to like experience their own emotions, there's some parents who like, I don't want my child to feel sad. I don't want my child to feel disappointment. I don't want my child to feel hurt. You're not raising a capable human being because you're not teaching. As human beings, we're not supposed to be happy all the time. Yeah, surprising. We're not supposed to be. We grow mostly through challenges.
Right.
So when you prevent your child from learning what it is to experience disappointment and recovering from that, you rob them of the opportunity to realize that I am a capable person. You rob them of the opportunity of improving their self esteem because I actually overcame this challenge. Wow, I didn't know I could do that. It impacts how they view themselves. Now, if you're always rescuing your children, what you're telling your children is that I don't trust you to be able to do this kind of thing. I don't think you're capable of doing this particular thing. So, yes, you might have missed out on your father being in your life. Still show up for your children, but remember the end goal is that you're supposed to be raising a capable human being, which means they should be able to effectively regulate their emotions, regulate their behavior, make healthy decisions, so their decision making skills. They're
Right.
supposed to be empathetic. They're supposed to have a moral compass. All that kind of thing is supposed to be there. But if you smother them, how are they going to do it? How are they
Because
going to
these
learn
things
to do it?
develop through experience.
Through experience. Yeah. You don't know how to deal with sadness until you've gone through the whole process of experiencing sadness and saying, oh, this is what sadness feels like. And that's why you have so many adults now who, the minute they experience some form of adversity in life, they immediately think of, they immediately develop suicide ideation.
Right.
Their whole world is falling apart because while growing up, they were not given the opportunity to learn that mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow. They were not given the opportunity to develop the resilience in them, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical resilience, because everything was being taken care of. So they then become adults who are not capable of handling life circumstances. So I'm not saying yeah, obviously you give your children all the necessary emotional attachment that they need and providing for their needs, not necessarily wants. But as a parent, you need to, that's why I keep telling the parents, what's your end goal? What kind of child do you want to have? You want a child to be resilient when they grow up, right? I want my child to grow up and be this resilient human being.
Okay.
What is happening now for them to develop that resilience? If you're always saving them, if you're
Well,
always pampering them, how would they develop resilience?
so the parent that takes a position that I am teaching my child to be resilient by way of showing them that if this is what happens, or telling them if this is what happens, this is how you deal with it.
What you do with children having difficulties, remember last week I was telling you that we tell children too much, we
Yes.
chat too much as adults.
Yes.
And so telling somebody something has some impact, but it's better when they problem solve themselves,
Mm.
meaning that you are more there to ask questions. What do you think about this? Have you considered that? There are certain options, X, Y, and Z. What do you think works best for you in this particular situation? You're developing your child's problem solving skills, critical thinking skills. And then when they find the solutions, they're like, oh, I'm capable of doing stuff like this. What happens? They feel capable and their self esteem goes up. So that's the difference from telling, the difference between telling and asking. So yeah, again, the
No.
end goal is raising children who are capable
So
in all sense of the word, like emotional, mental, everything.
which gender is the one that typically goes the route of saying, okay, this is the kind of experience you have if you touch the pot and it's been on the stove, it's going to burn you and you'll get blisters and blah blah blah. Walk them through the whole thing, you're telling them what will happen. Versus the parent that goes, okay, so you touch the pot, you're gonna get hurt. And they see the child go into the pot and they let them go and touch the pot and then go, okay, so now you touch the pot. See, I told you you're gonna get hurt.
I think to some extent, because women are more verbal,
Yes.
our strength is in verbal thing, and that's it's not just the pot. Children are more likely to listen to their fathers because men are very direct and precise, right?
Okay.
And so when you speak, they know that's really important. But sometimes our strength as women can also be our disadvantage. We go into a whole lecturing and explanation, and like 5 minutes in, our children just tune us out, but just smile and pretend as if they still hear us. So that's why I was saying from last week that we talk sometimes a lot, way too much, and women are more likely to be guilty of it. Men are just very precise. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where when you go into relationships, for example, as a woman who didn't grow up with a father, his bluntness and preciseness might come across as mean or harsh when it's not.
So the women that grow up with men only, are they more likely to develop male type characteristics? As in the way they think, the way they act, the way they respond to situations, and vice versa?
Well, if she grew up with her father, there are certain things about being a woman that might be more challenging for her, in the sense of, how she's more softer in her feminine role. She might not be able to be that way because she doesn't have an example. But that tends to not be so much, because even the fathers who are raising daughters by themselves, they tend to have like their mother around a lot, or their sisters. So for her, she's still learning a lot on how she's as a woman, or how she's supposed to be as a woman. So in that scenario, there's certain things that if she, which is a rare case, she has no access to women, she might interpret like a man, she won't necessarily do the whole pursuing and all of that, like what fatherless daughters do. She's not gonna be the chaser, so to speak. But her feminine role might not be as smooth setting, but also remember that women are naturally nurturers.
Right.
So there will be something in her that's still there, but how she executes it might not be as precise because she didn't have that example. But again, that's rare because even fathers raising daughters by themselves usually have a community of women who support them. It's the other case where the woman raising the son oftentimes have a community of women but don't have a community of men. And that's where the issue comes in. So if a mother is raising a son, he knows how to respond to a woman's emotions, right? Because he's seen his mother, his sisters, and so on getting all emotional, and he might be more emotionally aware, or might have more emotional intelligence because he's constantly around seeing how women process. But the whole thing of how do you provide and protect your family as a man,
Right.
he might have some idea, but it's not that precise because he didn't have that example for him. Yeah. So when you are lucky to have the balance, you learn both sides, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I know some people, especially when the father has died, there's no way of the father coming back, or the parent has died. I won't just say just father, but parent in general. It is our responsibility as the parent, the primary caregiver, to provide a balanced experience for our children. And again, in doing that, though, I must caution that you be careful. If there's something about this particular person that you would like to, be a role model or whatever for your children, that doesn't sit right with you, listen to yourself. Okay? Because there's some people who may not have the best intentions for your children. Hopefully, if you've had your father in your life, your father then can step in to, or the other parent, the grandparent can step in to be that role model and to help your children. Or if you have a brother, for example, or a sister who might be able to step in to guide. So don't think that everything is the worst because I've totally messed up. No, the important thing is to be aware, to recognize where you've made the mistake, and to find healthy avenues to rectify that mistake. So I'm not saying you're supposed to go into a state of depression. I've totally failed my child and I've gone and messed up. No, some relationships were just not meant to work, and that's okay. The father is still there. Or the parent is still there. Create every opportunity for that parent to still have access to their children. If that parent make a decision that they don't want to, then create an opportunity for your children to have examples of that other parent gender in their life, so that they can see how things are done. So it's not this deterministic, oh my God, everything is, once the typical nuclear family thing has dissolved, it means your child is doomed. No, you can take the proactive approach to just have certain systems in place to support your children.
But the key is to recognize within yourself, or to get treatment, to get help for what is going on with you as the parent first.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of persons, and yeah, it's also our society that everything is just so driven by money and survival. When you're in a constant survival mode, sometimes it's difficult for you to see that there are certain things that you need to fix within yourself too, because the rent needs to be paid, the tuition needs to be paid, whatever needs to be paid. So I empathize and I understand sometimes it takes a while to see that certain things need to be fixed. But for me, every parent at some point get this thing like, I really don't like how things are going. When you get to that point, you have to have an honest conversation with yourself. And a lot of parents don't want to have that honest conversation with themselves. Human beings don't want to have honest conversation with themselves about how their behavioral patterns is impacting their current reality, what they're producing in their life. Very few want to go there because it's an icky, uncomfortable place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's where you have a lot of self-judgment, and you have to say, I'm not going to judge myself. I'm thankful for the previous experience. It served its purpose. Now, what can I learn from this experience so that I can do better to create different experiences? That's a way of looking at it. So yeah, I messed up. I'm not going to sit self-loathe and beat up on myself. Yeah, I did the best I could with what I knew then. But now that I have this information, what can I do differently?
Dr. T, for those who are just tuning in, we're going to be wrapping up shortly. For those who are just tuning in and don't know who you are, just hear you talking, I want to welcome you guys to the show, first of all, if you're just tuning in. But if they don't know who it is, they might be tuning in on kevinstew.com and they see your image up and they see your title, PhD. Just quickly run over who you are, and your area of expertise, and give your contact information once again, and make mention of that parenting journal.
Yes. So, I'm Jamaican too. So I know a lot of your audience, they're Jamaicans. So yes, I'm Jamaican. My childhood experiences basically influenced me to go into psychology, right? Because I wanted to understand relationships and all of that. My parents divorced when I was 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to, there are certain things that I experienced, and, I'm like, okay, psychology is the way for me to, I guess it was a form of self-therapy,
Right.
going into psychology. So, so my first 2 degrees are in psychology, and then I did a special program for my doctorate, which is family relations and human development. So it integrates a lot of developmental psychology, childhood development, family studies into one big umbrella. And so for my doctoral studies, I focused a lot on parent-child relationships. Especially, I wanted to learn more about the Jamaican parent-child relationship. And I'm also trained in the concept of Adlerant psychology. So I have certification in positive discipline, which is parenting program,
Mm-hmm.
which is based on the Adlerant psychology. And I have been trained in a program relating to strengthening the family. So everything that I've done so far is in my studies and work ties into child development and parent-child relationships, and how parent-child relationship influence child development. Yep. And I do parenting classes. So I normally do like a 7-week workshop. So every 7 weeks, I'm doing a parenting class.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is going to begin in January. And once persons email me at info@tanieshaburke.com, they can be on the mailing list and get access. Or they can go to my website, which is my name, tanishaburke.com. And if they hover over to courses, they'll see workshops. Once they click on it, they will see the information for the upcoming class. And as it relates to my journal,
Right.
my journal is actually a product of my dissertation. So I looked at parent-child relationships in Jamaica, and I am, I guess, a rebel in academia, because when you published in peer-reviewed journals, they tend to be these expensive journals, and you only have access to them through the university library, or if not, you have to pay like 20 euros or something for an article. And I, coming from Jamaica, it still doesn't sit well with me. that I'm doing all this work and the people who need it the most don't have access to it. That
Right.
doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So I'm now on a mission to convert my studies into services and products that can go directly to the people who need it the most. So the parenting journal, that's basically, it's the findings from the journal, from my studies. I used to develop the journal, and it's just guided questions for 120 days to help you to become self-aware. So it's perfect for wanting to change your relationship, because again, becoming self-aware of what was not good about being a parent today, what was good about being a parent, what am I grateful for, and certain affirmations. You go through that over the 120 days. You'll be amazed at how aware you become of your parenting patterns and your triggers, that you start making the active process of changing how you interact with your children and even yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. T.
I should let's say that the journal is on all Amazon platforms. So just type in my name and it's there.
Right. I was thinking to mention that, and it just left me. Dr. Taniesha Burke, I want to thank you. These past 3 weeks, you have put out extra effort to be a part of this show.
Yes, I'm very passionate about my Jamaican people. So even though I'm in Europe and all the parents here are benefiting from my program, I still try to find avenues to still connect with my Jamaican folks. So it wasn't a problem for me to get up at 4 a.m. to talk to you.
Yeah, people don't understand, you know.
Yeah, it's but before we go, I just want to say to parents that I don't want you to, when you recognize that certain behavior patterns have not been serving your children well, I don't want you to go into a state of despair and thinking that I've completely failed my children. What have I done? I want you to remember that the human mind is the brain really is very malleable. So it changes based on experiences. And, I talked about the brain last week. But because it changes based on experiences throughout life, really, until you die. Research thought it was only in childhood, but it's throughout life. But you still have your children in the childhood period from 0 to 18. You still can make the changes because the brain changed based on experiences. Once you recognize that certain generational patterns in your family have not been helpful and you want to make the switch, that's the very first thing to recognize. Thank the experience, yes, or thank the pattern. Yes, you've served my family well, but there needs to now be a change in how I interact with my children from now on. Making that recognition, don't get all upset about, I really messed up. Acknowledge, yes, it served its purpose. Now I'm going to make a change and take a step towards doing something new, creating a new experience for my children so we can also change their brains and giving them new experiences. And I'm going to find the resources. And if what my message resonates with you, then you contact me on my website. There is a book online. You can book a complimentary session and we can have a talk, or you can register for my parenting courses. But don't give up. The brain is very malleable. You can still make the positive changes once you become aware of things that have not been working or serving your children and decide to do an alternative way. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I have here an image of your journal, which, as you were talking about it, I should have put up. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, those watching on kevinstew.com. There it is, Parenting Journal, 120 Days to Strengthening Your Parent-Child Relationship. And it is available on, like Dr. T said, on all Amazon platforms. So wherever you are in the world and you have access to Amazon, it is there available. Don't say you can't get it. because you can. And Dr. T is also available and approachable. You can talk to her. As you can hear, that's just her. It's not a show, it's not a put on, it's not anything like that. All right? So, Dr. T, I hope we get to have you back in the new year.
Yes, I think that's possible.
And
again, anything to connect with my Jamaican folks, to share this wealth of information that I've had access to.
Yes.
So we can change a lot of things in our culture.
Yeah, because I know I grew up in a single parent home, and some of the things that you're talking about, I see it in myself. But I have also been privileged enough to have people that I can talk to, and people that I can talk to professionally. People like you, people here in the US in the same profession. There's Dr. Kai in Jamaica. And I have been fortunate enough that I can have these real conversations with people like you. But then there are others who think that if you talk to someone who studies, or their profession is the study of the mind and the psyche, that something is wrong with them, then they tend to miss out. And then they end up with something really being wrong with them. So I do encourage people to, hey, get a therapist. Find a therapist. Find one that you can connect with and relate to. And have a few sessions. You go to a doctor to check out your body. You go to a dentist to check out your mouth. Those with feet problems, you go to a podiatrist. Go to a head doctor. Go to a psychologist, a psychiatrist. Talk to somebody. Go to a church, a pastor, whomever. We can only benefit from it. Right, Dr. T?
Yes, definitely. And don't just improve your body, but also improve your mind.
Right. If you're gonna be healthy, you might as well be healthy overall. And I know this isn't healthy love. This is real talk, but we're talking about real issues that affect us. And once it comes to issues, they tend to really gravitate more towards the emotion, and the emotion is pretty much linked to the psyche, as far as I know. Right?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were leaving me on a limb.
Yes, definitely.
So
Thank you again, Dr. T. You're most welcome.
All the best for the Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. And I hope you and your son have a terrific Christmas.
We definitely will.
Right.
And same to you and your family and all the parents who are listening.
I thank you.
All right.
You take care until later on.
Yeah, bye.
All right, have a good one. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we jump into some musical therapy, yeah? Cool.
Pulsey Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulsey Media Group.
Yeah, that was
Are you crazy about the music industry? You aspire to hit it big in music? Or maybe you've sweated out a soulful killer beat and are now stuck finding it's not as easy as it looked. Oh, but it can be easy for you with JTMC. We've been there, we know how it feels, so we solve challenges like production, promotion, marketing, branding and development, and more. With over 30 years of experience, JTMC is a one-stop shop for artists. We handle your graphic design, writing services, PR, as well as event planning, e-blasts, artist management, and bookings, so also your website and social media needs as well. We're experts in using creativity to persuade audiences on behalf of artists, drawing on our diverse experience to create projects that connect with audiences intellectually and emotionally. Artist success is everything to us, and our years of experience and commitment will be behind you for every one of your needs. If you've got music for the world to hear, whether you're a new or established artist, visit us at jtmcenterprise.com.
Roll out with Island Rock Music and have fun. Check out the quality apparel at islandrockmusic.com. Designed for you and your crew. Hear the music, feel the breeze, with selected tracks and more. Available now from the online store at islandrockmusic.com. islandrockmusic.com. Log on today and ride with us.
Stepping, these are roots vibrations. Stepping.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links, www.dahchurchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
JTMC Music presents the highly anticipated, much talked about, The Juggling Rhythm Volume 1. This classic rhythm takes on a new life with tracks from both established artists and introduces some incredible new voices. Get your dancing shoes ready with The Juggling Rhythm, featuring international reggae dancehall artist Mr. Vegas, alongside Ian Sweetness, Ed Robinson, Jack Radix, Hezron, Dangling, Joanna Marie featuring Galaxy P, Denny Ranks featuring Jawiz, Ambalik, Christine Alicia, Yishka. Also the new sensations on the rhythm: Zeal, Danger Lee, Marquis Skelenar, Zachary. Available on all digital media outlets. The Juggling Rhythm. Get it, get it, get it.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulsemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
It's Christina representing for DJ Kevin. You see me, I say, I don't know the boss. You see me, I say, DJ Kevin's Stew and the night shift radio show. Yo, it at the thing, turn up the thing loud. Whoa, DJ Kevin's Stew have the heart of a champion. Never underestimate, just choose him. The silver line behind the dark clouds. DJ Kevin's Stew, believe him, and that's no doubt. Salute the night shift radio show, Christina. It's a hot it up, loud. Kill the beast.
Who's gonna stand up for the children? Let me see the hands in the air, hands in the air. If you're not a part of the problem, then show
want to say welcome back to the show. This is our musical therapy as we wrap up the night shift for this week. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, one and all. You guys in the pot, big ups to you. I want to say thanks to our segment sponsors, Pulse Media Group, GMAT Music Solutions, JTMC Enterprises, and this segment, Sir Rockwell and the Wake Up and Live Show. I do encourage you to tune in to the Wake Up and Live Show tomorrow morning. Sir Rockwell kicks it off at 7. And I pop in the drive-by around about 10:15. The song playing in the background, the sound of Deandra. The track is called Hands in the Air.
But some of us are just running wild. Tell me who is to blame. To neglect us is a shame. Who's gonna stand up for the children? Let me see the hands in the air. Hands in the air. If you're not a part of the problem, then show us that you care. Who's gonna stand up for the children?
Ask 8 minutes to the top of the hour. This is the sound of Ruffy. You know, coming up next week, on this very day, 7 days from now, we'll be wrapping up Christmas Day. This is the sound of Korik. reminding us to give some love. And I'm encouraging that we don't just give love on Christmas Day, but every day. As always, I encourage you to be nice to someone that lives in your community. And your community is not just a development that you live in. It spreads far and wide. So those that you pass on the bus, on the plane, on the boat, on the train, whether you walk, ride or drive, these are members of your community. Do something good for one of them today, because you never know who's going to do something good for you tomorrow. And as you go through the weekend, remember, be good. But if you can't be good, be good at it. My name is DJ Kevin Stew. This is how I like to do it, to you, for you, and with you. Every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 10 to midnight. KevinStew.com, Rotthebox.net, PEMGTV.com, and all affiliate stations: One Harmony Radio, Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com. Big ups to each and every one of you. Thank you. And all being well, catch you Monday night with a special Christmas show. Yeah? Yeah. Yes, the world needs your love. So why don't you love on Christmas Day? Underneath every Christmas tree should be piles of loving for you and me. Give love on Christmas Day. There is no greater gift. No.
moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulsemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.